How would you define heavy metal?
Define it? Well, it's just, I don't know.
That's such an open-ended question.
Ooh. That's a tough one.
Go on, another question.
I don't know, actually.
It's always been an extraordinarily difficult thing to try and talk about because you have to hear it, you have to experience it.
We are the lost generation, people who don't necessarily fit in.
It's a lot of white boy angst.
Metal is all about stirring up the pot.
It was just about
I want to fight you.
it's like having a 5 foot.
Yeah! You feel the sound. It hits you right here.
It's that anarchy. It's that stuff that makes your parents wet themselves when they're thinking about what their kids may or may not be doing.
El hecho de que el heavy metal haya nacido a finales de los 60 sorprende mucho. En ese tiempo la música pop hablaba de paz y amor, pero aquellos que se interesaron en ver más allá de la superficie descubrieron que no todas las ciudades eran como San Francisco. Otros lugares tenían una historia más oscura que contar.
In the Second World War in Birmingham, that's where all the ammunition was made. That's why it got so heavily bombed. So there's a lot of bricks all over the place and bombed out buildings, all that kind of stuff.
If you look at the times, it was all love and peace and bells and free love, and that wasn't the case for industrial, stenchy town of Birmingham.
It was very rough, really, very industrial sort of town.
There's heavy industry of all descriptions in and around Birmingham.
That's why it's called the Black Country. Coal mines and the smoke. As kids growing up, that was embedded in your mentality.
I remember as a kid being in class, and next door to the school was one of these big metal foundries, and you'd be in class trying to study and you could actually hear the metal hammers and the compressors banging and spitting forth metal and all this smoke, and it was drifting into the classroom, and your books on the desk would be bouncing. You could actually physically feel it. So I sometimes think that's the culprit, I actually breathed that metal into my lungs, it got into my blood.
Algunos dicen que el heavy metal se percibe desde el sonido distorsionado de las guitarras de Kings o Jimi Hendrix, o en la épica y nagada vida de Iron Butterfly. Pero el verdadero metal nació en el infierno industrial de Birmingham en un día común de 1968, que se trastornó asquerosamente para mal.
I worked in a factory doing welding and stuff. It's really peculiar because I was going to leave the job that day. I just joined a band and we were going to tour Germany and whatever else. So it was my last day, if you like, and there was nothing for me to do. They said, well, the person that cuts the sheet metal wasn't in that day, and so they said, well, you cut it because you can't, otherwise you've got nothing to do. So they put me on this sheet metal machine that comes down and chops and bends metal. Of course, I had not a clue about it. I'd never worked on it before. And I got my hand in, it just went straight down. And of course, as I pulled my hand back, I took the two ends off. So after that happened, of course, that blew everything. I was just devastated. I thought I'd never... I went into such a deep depression.
He was told by his doctors that was the end, But, a guy like Tony Iommi, tremendously driven person. And you weren't going to leave a guy like that behind. He invented his own prosthesis.
He had to make false fingers, really. And he made them out of old plastic bottle tops that he'd melt onto his fingers and then put some leather over the top for the grip.
And
And, he's saying, what the hell am I going to do with this? It hurts to play with them. He figured out he could tune down. He could detune and play with these plastic fingers. The sound is actually thicker and heavier. And it's a core of the Black Sabbath sound.
Because I took the ends of my fingers off, it made me create a different style of playing, which was great, really, because eventually it became heavy metal.
The big thing for Tony Iommi was the discovery of the Devil's Third. Dun, dun, dun. That very close movement in the music was literally banned in medieval times because they thought, this is a fact, they thought that it conjured the devil.
That's one of those things that, man, as a guitar player and a songwriter, you wish you could have wrote because you were defined immediately.
Before that, we were playing bluesy jazz, and it just went into this. It's hard to, I don't think we can explain it.
A la banda que se conocía originalmente como Air, se unió el cantante Ozzy Osbourne, un carnicero bipolar.
I've always been a very rebellious type of a person from the age of whatever. My father said to me before he died that he always expected me to be in prison all my life, because I just wouldn't conform to the system.
En la batería estaba el soldador Bill Ward y en el bajo Geezer Butler, un contador frustrado aficionado a la brujería.
It's hard to explain to people, but it was like a very close unit, and we had this thing going on with each other that was very strange. And Geezer in particular had all sorts of weird dreams and weird thoughts. It might have been the acid, I don't know.
At the time I was seriously into cult stuff and black magic and all that kind of thing. I had this little apartment which I'd painted black and had all these upside down crosses all around the place, pictures of Satan everywhere. And Ozzy brought this book around for me, and it's like this really old 15th century old book, and it was all written in Latin. It was all about black magic. It had all these drawings of Satan and everything in it, and I just had a really weird feeling about it. And that same night, I woke up in the middle of this horrible nightmare, and I just saw this black shape at the bottom of my bed, just staring at me. It was like a black, malevolent thing. It's a horrible feeling of it, and I just totally freaked out. And I told Ozzy about it, and he came up with the lyrics to Black Sabbath.
What is this that stands before me?
It was very different, and we knew it was very different when we done it. It was almost frighteningly different,
Feather in black, where its points at me.
We had these gigs at the blues clubs, and we thought, should we play that song we'd done? We were trying to see what the reaction would be, and we played Black Sabbath, and God, the people's faces when they heard that.
Oh, no!